today's lecture, we'll talk about biotechnology applications in the field of medicine, right? So, biotechnology has produced many therapeutics which are safer than the normal medicines, right? So, the important part of biotechnology is rDNA technology. rDNA technology means recombinant DNA technology. What do you mean by recombinant DNA technology? Human gene is expressed in a bacteria, right? So it is not a bacterial gene, it's a human gene which is getting expressed in a host called bacteria, and the bacteria is producing human protein. So we tell it is recombination because in bacteria human genes are there. Then what is it called? Recombination. So the rDNA technique, rDNA technology, if you take processes, have produced immense products. It has produced immense products in large scale, and they are safer, they are cheaper when compared to the normal medicines. It has produced immense products which are safer and are produced in bulk scale also, because if we are producing human gene in a bacteria whose generation time is 20 minutes, in a day, how many copies it can produce? Your gene is getting cloned many times in a short span of time. DNA technology has helped us to produce healthcare products in large scale, so which are more safer and more efficient. So we can write down rDNA products are more safer and more efficient also. We'll take some examples to understand how efficient they are when compared to the normal ones. rDNA products, because they are human DNA products, if it is for human purpose, we'll use the human genes only. Since they are human specific products, they will not give any unwanted immunological responses. So, rDNA therapeutics, if you go with, rDNA therapeutics will not produce, they will not produce unwanted immunological responses. They will not produce unwanted immunological side effects, we can tell. Since they are species specific, they will not give us any unwanted side effects. So, which other products will give? At present, how many recombinant DNA therapeutics are there available in the market worldwide? Means 30 rDNA therapeutics are available, they are approved. So, we can write across the world. How many are there? There are 30 recombinant therapeutics which are approved. Now, in India, how many are available in the market? Across the world, how many are there? 30 therapeutics are there. But in India, 12 are available in the market, out of which 12 products are available in market. Now, let us see what are the 12 products which are produced by biotechnology which are available in the market. In exemplar, there is a question asking us, list down the 12 recombinant therapeutics which are available in India. So, first let us list down. So, the first recombinant therapeutics is human insulin. It is human insulin. It is called Humulin, produced by rDNA technology, which is used to treat diabetes mellitus. It is used in treatment of diabetes mellitus, right? So, this is the first one. And first one is human insulin, which is called Humulin, which is produced by rDNA technology. Next one is streptokinase. What is the second one? An enzyme called streptokinase. It acts as a clot buster. It breaks the cholesterol clots and prevents the person from the attack of atherosclerosis, heart attacks. So it prevents atherosclerosis. So it prevents atherosclerosis. This is the second product we can take. And third one, we can talk erythropoietin. What's the third product? Erythropoietin. Erythropoietin, it is a hormone which helps in RBC production. That means it is used in the treatment of anemia. Erythropoietin helps in RBC production. If it helps in RBC production, where do we use it? We use it in the treatment of anemia. Used in treatment of anemia. Anemia is a condition where blood cells are less. For treating anemia, we can use erythropoietin, which will stimulate the RBC production. Next one, hemophilic factors, blood clotting factors can also be produced by rDNA technology. Blood clotting factors, right? So factor 8 and factor 9 are the predominant ones which cause hemophilia. So blood clotting factors, they help in blood clotting. They help in clotting of blood. They are used in treatment of hemophilia. They are used in treatment of hemophilia. Human insulin used in treatment of diabetes. Streptokinase, which acts as a clot buster, it breaks the cholesterol clots and prevent the person from getting heart attacks. Erythropoietin, it stimulates RBC production and it is used in treatment of anemia. Blood clotting factors 8 and 9 help to clot the blood and it helps in treatment of hemophilia. Now rDNA vaccines are also there. I think I told you the first Indian recombinant vaccine is hepatitis B vaccine produced by an Indian company, Shanta Biotech. Hepatitis B vaccine is used in, vaccine means it prevents, right? It prevents hepatitis. If we take the vaccine, we are immunized, we will not get the disease. So the fifth one is hepatitis B vaccine, which is also an rDNA therapeutics. Next one is human growth hormone, which is used to treat dwarfism. Next, sixth factor is human growth hormone. Human growth hormone is used in the treatment of dwarfism. Right? So, next one is interleukins and interferons. Interleukin. So, interleukins, what they will do? They will stimulate the immune system. So, they stimulate the immune system. When our immune system is strong, then we get more resistance to fight against diseases. Next one is interferons. INF means interferons. In this interferons, we have alpha interferon and next one we have is gamma interferon. Alpha interferon, where do we use? Cancer treatment. Gamma interferon, where do we use? In treatment of rheumatoid arthritis. Alpha interferon is used in the treatment of cancer. It is used in cancer treatment. Whereas gamma interferon is used in the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis. Right? Then 10th one. So we need to list 12, right? 10th one is follicle stimulating hormone, which promotes the development of the follicles and it helps to resolve infertility issues. Follicle stimulating hormone. What it will do? So it helps to resolve infertility. It helps to resolve infertility. Next, what can we talk about? Granulocyte colony stimulating factors. So granulocytes, A granulocytes, we will discuss this in WBC, right? So granulocyte colony stimulating factors, can I write it here? The 11th one and 12th one. 11th one is called granulocyte colony stimulating factor. So it helps the immune cells to proliferate more. And another one will be granulocyte macrophage colony stimulating factors. Macrophages, they do phagocytosis. They find the antigen, they engulf the antigen, they eat off the antigen. So when these cells are more, again we are more resistant, we are showing more resistant toward diseases. Children, we started biotechnology applications in medicine, and we are telling that the important part of biotechnology is rDNA technology. With the advent of rDNA technology, we were able to produce many good products for healthcare, which are enabling us to produce them in large scale, in big bioreactors, which are more safer and which are more efficient also. rDNA therapeutics, when compared to the normal therapeutics, how are they more safer? Means they will not give any unwanted immunological responses because they are species specific. Those genes only we are using. Present, how many recombinant therapeutics are available in the market? Means NCERT says that there are 30 recombinant therapeutics available in the market which are approved, out of which 12 are available in India, out of which 12 are available in the markets of India. In India they are available. So we have listed all the 12. The first one we are telling human insulin, treatment of diabetes. Second one, streptokinase, prevents heart attacks. Erythropoietin, treatment of anemia. Blood clotting factors, treatment of hemophilia. Hepatitis B, it prevents the occurrence of hepatitis. Human growth hormone helps in the treatment of dwarfism. Interleukins, they stimulate the immune system. Interferon alpha, cancer treatment. Interferon gamma, rheumatoid arthritis. Follicle stimulating hormone resolves infertility issues. Then 11 and 12 are granulocyte colony stimulating factors. What they will do? They will proliferate the granulocytes, so which will keep the immune system strong. Take a screenshot, then we will talk about the next topic, that is human insulin production. Right. So our next topic is genetically engineered insulin. So insulin is a hormone. It is a pancreatic hormone. It is a hypoglycemic hormone. It reduces the blood glucose levels. So blood glucose levels should be maintained constant. How much? 80 to 120 mg, right, per deciliter of the blood. If the levels go high, then we call it's diabetes, right? So insulin is a hormone which will try to maintain the glucose levels like 80 to 120. Let's go with next topic, 12.2.1, which is called as genetically engineered insulin production. Genetically engineered insulin production is our next topic. So we are telling that what is insulin? We are trying to understand what is insulin. So insulin is a pancreatic hormone. It is a pancreatic hormone produced by the beta cells of the islets of Langerhans. So produced by the beta cells of islets of Langerhans. Insulin is a peptide hormone containing 51 amino acids. It is a peptide hormone made up of 51 amino acids synthesized by the beta cells of islets of Langerhans. Islets of Langerhans is the endocrine portion of the pancreas which secretes hormone. In that, alpha cells will secrete glucagon, beta cells will secrete insulin. Now insulin, what is it? What is the action of insulin? Insulin is hypoglycemic hormone. Hypoglycemic hormone means it decreases the blood glucose levels. Hypo means decreasing the glycemic index, glucose levels in the blood. Hypoglycemic hormone means it decreases blood glucose levels. Whenever the blood glucose levels are shooting up, then the insulin gets synthesized, and that tries to keep the insulin levels low by distributing the insulin to the cells, by promoting glycogenesis. It will ask the liver cells to now make the glycogen and store it as a reserve food material. All that it will do so that the glucose will not be there in the blood, it gets distributed out. So insulin is very important. Deficiency of insulin causes diabetes mellitus. So deficiency of insulin, it causes diabetes mellitus, right? It causes diabetes mellitus. There are two types of diabetes mellitus. One is type 1 diabetes mellitus. Next one is type 2 diabetes mellitus. Type 1 diabetes mellitus is called juvenile diabetes. Type 2 diabetes mellitus is called adult onset diabetes. Type 1 is called juvenile diabetes. Type 2 is called adult onset diabetes. So, how do we manage type 2 diabetes? Insulin this is called type 2 diabetes is called insulin independent diabetes, and type 1 is called insulin dependent diabetes. We can also tell type 1 diabetes as insulin dependent diabetes, this is, and type 2 is called insulin independent diabetes. Type 2 is called insulin independent diabetes, right? So, how can we manage type 2 diabetes means? How can we manage type 2 diabetes means the people who are having this diabetes means their insulin levels are low. Then how do we manage means by giving insulin injections. Since the insulin levels are low, their glucose levels are high. So, we have to give insulin injections. We have to give insulin injections. Now, the question is, from where do we get insulin injection? The question is, from where do we get insulin injection? Before rDNA technology was there, from where they used to prepare this insulin means they used to go to slaughterhouses. They used to go to slaughterhouses, animal slaughterhouses. They used to go there, and from there they used to collect the pancreas of the animal. From the pancreas of the animal, they used to collect the insulin, purify that insulin and give it to the people who are suffering from diabetes mellitus. So, what is that called? The insulin which is collected from pig is called porcine insulin. The insulin which is collected from beef is called bovine insulin. So, how they get this insulin injection means they used to go to slaughterhouses. From the slaughterhouses, from the animal slaughterhouses, they used to collect the animal pancreas. From the animal pancreas, they used to extract insulin. They used to purify this insulin and give it as a medicine to the people who are suffering from diabetes mellitus. But this insulin which is collected from pig is called as porcine insulin, and the insulin which is collected from cattle is called as bovine insulin. The insulin which is collected from pig is called porcine insulin. The insulin which is collected from cattle is called bovine insulin. Porcine insulin and bovine insulin, are they human specific insulins? No, right? They are pig insulin and cattle insulin. Now, if you are giving that insulin to man, will it show side effects? Obviously, it will show side effects. The person will get relief from high sugar levels. So, that is good. But then they have some side effects because this insulin is not human specific insulin, as this is animal insulin. As this is animal insulin, like people used to get side effects. they used to get side effects. And again, from slaughterhouses, how much pancreas they can collect, and from that pancreas, how much insulin they can extract? Obviously, less amounts only. If it is less, means it is more expensive. One drawback, side effects are there. Then next one, we are telling very less amounts can be extracted. Less amounts can be extracted. This is another drawback. And we are telling, since less amount is extracted, so it is more expensive. And it is less efficient also, right? Since it is not human insulin, it is animal insulin, it is less efficient also. Understood, children? So we started with genetically engineered insulin production. Before that, we are looking at the history. We are telling that what is insulin first of all? It is a pancreatic hormone produced by pancreas. The endocrine portion of the pancreas is called as islets of Langerhans. Alpha cell will secrete a hormone called glucagon. Beta cells will secrete a hormone called insulin, which is a peptide hormone made up of 51 amino acids. What is the function of insulin? It will reduce the blood glucose level. So it is hypoglycemic hormone. Deficiency of insulin leads to a disorder called diabetes mellitus. Mellitus means sugar, right? So excess sugar. Two types of diabetes are there. Type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is called juvenile diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is called adult onset diabetes. This is also called insulin dependent diabetes. This is called insulin independent diabetes, right? So most of the diabetes cases are adult onset diabetes only. Then how are we treating this? By giving insulin. From where do we get the insulin? We get the insulin from slaughterhouses. From the animal slaughterhouses, we used to take the animal pancreas. From there, we used to extract insulin, purify insulin, and then give it to the people who are suffering from diabetes. But then it is porcine insulin and bovine insulin. It is not human specific insulin. It will show side effects. One drawback. Very less amount of insulin can be extracted. Second drawback. Since it is less, the cost is more. Third drawback. And coming to efficiency, it's not that efficient as that of human insulin. It is less efficient. All these are the drawback. Now, the boon for diabetic people is rDNA technology. Through rDNA technology, you can manufacture human insulin itself. So, take a screenshot. We'll talk about human insulin production. Yeah. Now, we'll talk about, we'll see the structure of insulin, then we will go to human insulin production. We told insulin is a peptide hormone and we told it is made up of 51 amino acids, right? So, right. So, when we see the structure of insulin, first insulin is synthesized as pre-proinsulin and it gets converted to proinsulin. Further gets matured as insulin. Now this insulin we know which is made up of 51 amino acids. The matured insulin is made up of 51 amino acids. In that there is an A chain. This A chain, what is this? A chain made up of 21 amino acids. And there is a B chain also. What is this? B chain made up of 30 amino acids. Now, both the chains should not be separate. They should be joined by disulfide bonds. Disulfide bonds are made between sulfur containing amino acids. So, the 7th place of A chain will link to the 7th place of B chain by interdisulfide bond. The 7th amino acid here is cysteine and the 7th amino acid in B chain is also cysteine. Both of them will join by a disulfide bond to make a molecule. And again, the 20th amino acid of A chain is again cysteine. The 19th amino acid of B chain is again cysteine. Again, between these two cysteines, I told this is the 7th amino acid and here also 7th amino acid. So, between 7th amino acid and the 7th amino acid, one disulfide bond. And between the 20th amino acid of A chain, 20th amino acid to the 19th amino acid, the second disulfide bond. Second disulfide bond is found between the 20th amino acid of the A chain to the 19th amino acid of the B chain. So, make another disulfide bond here. These two are interdisulfide bonds. There is an intradisulfide bond between the 6th place to the 11th place. This is the 6th amino acid. Here is the 11th amino acid. Here also it has a cysteine. Here also it has a cysteine. Children, between these two, there is one more disulfide bond. Between these two, there is one more disulfide bond. But this disulfide bond is within the chain. So, it is called intradisulfide bond. This disulfide bond, where is it? It is between the 6th cysteine to the 11th cysteine of A chain only. It is of A chain only. What is it? It is intradisulfide bond. And to keep the insulin chain active, there is a zinc atom at the center of the insulin chains here. A divalent zinc ion will be there, which will keep the insulin effective. This appeared in the NEET examination 3 years before. So, what is that element which we can find in a matured insulin? It is zinc atom. So, insulin is made up of 51 amino acids. It is a peptide hormone made up of two polypeptide chains, A chain and B chain. A chain is made up of 21 amino acids, B chain is made up of 30 amino acids. There are two interdisulfide bonds and one intradisulfide bond. Now, what is proinsulin then? In proinsulin, if you take the A chain, if we take the A chain, here is the A chain. This is A chain and the B chain is 30 amino acids. This is the B chain. In proinsulin, A chain is connected to B chain by a C peptide. So, I am drawing a C peptide here which is made up of, what is this? A C peptide made up of 35 amino acids. A chain, children, 21 amino acids. Here is B chain made up of 30 amino acids. B chain made up of 30 amino acids, A chain made up of 20 amino acids. A chain is linked to the B chain by a C peptide, What is it called? Connecting peptide. When that connecting peptide is there, it is called as proinsulin. It's called as proinsulin. That means from proinsulin, if we remove this connecting peptide, if you remove this C peptide of 35 amino acids, then these two will join up, then you will get an insulin molecule. Then what is pre-proinsulin? In pre-proinsulin, along with the C peptide, there is another one which is made up of 23 amino acids. That is called signal peptide. What is this 23 amino acid chain called? It is called signal peptide. It's called signal peptide. If we have to see the structure of pre-proinsulin, we will draw this as the signal peptide. This is signal peptide. And after signal peptide is A chain. This is the A chain. And after A chain, there is C peptide. This is C peptide. After C peptide, there is B chain. This is B chain. So, what is this? B chain made up of 30 amino acids. What is this? C peptide made up of 35 amino acids. What is this? A chain made up of 21 amino acids. What is this? Signal peptide made up of 23 amino acids. So if only C peptide is there, that is pro-insulin. Along with the C peptide, if signal peptide is also there, it is pre-pro-insulin. That means pre-pro-insulin contains 58 extra amino acids. 23 plus 35, 58 extra amino acids are there in pre-pro-insulin. Now if you remove this part, then signal peptide is removed, 23 amino acids. Then it will become pro-insulin. In pro-insulin, only the C peptide will be there. Now if you remove C peptide also, then pro-insulin becomes matured insulin. This is the processing of the insulin. This is the structure of insulin. Now, this processing, Golgi, do you remember? Golgi helps in processing of the proteins. Golgi helps in secretion and packaging of the proteins. All this processing, removal of signal peptide, removal of C peptide will be done by Golgi in the cell. In cell, Golgi helps in processing. It helps in processing to form matured insulin. To form matured insulin. Take a screenshot. We will discuss again. In this board, we were talking about the structure of insulin and the processing of insulin. Just have a screenshot, then we will discuss again. Right. Now, this insulin deficiency only will cause diabetes. Now, people who are suffering from diabetes, what are they taking? Insulin injection, which is painful, right? Now think the other alternatives. Can you give insulin through other routes, like oral route can we give? Think of it. Or can we give through inhaler route? Think of it. So come on, let us think this way. If we are taking insulin through the oral route till it reaches the blood, will it be intact? This is a protein, right? It is crossing through the digestive system, which are having pepsin, trypsin enzymes, right? Will they don't digest the insulin? Yeah. So till the time it reaches its organ, it's digested. So insulin cannot be taken through oral route. Insulin cannot be taken through oral route. Why, children? This is a question in NCERT. Why insulin cannot be taken through oral route? Because it's a peptide hormone, digestive enzymes will degrade it off. So the digestive enzymes will degrade the insulin, will break off the insulin if you are taking through oral route. Then coming to inhaling insulin. In US market, insulin inhalers are there. So we can tell the next point. In US market, yes, insulin inhalers are available. Now, scientists are working out to make oral insulin also. Attempts are being made to make oral insulin also. They're trying to make oral insulin which will be reaching its target safe. Now then, finally, what is your conclusion? How is insulin taken? Insulin is taken through injection subcutaneously. So, insulin is injected subcutaneously. Under the skin we inject insulin, so it will reach the body, right? This is about the insulin production. We have seen the structure of insulin also. Now let us talk about the rDNA technology. We told when we take bovine insulin, porcine insulin, side effects are there, less efficient, more expensive. Then the boon is rDNA technology. What is that first company which have manufactured human insulin means it is in the year 1983. So we can tell July 5th in year 1983. The company is Eli Lilly Company. In US, they have prepared the first rDNA insulin. So they have Eli Lilly Company in US have manufactured human insulin, which they named it as Humulin. They manufactured human insulin, which is called as Humulin, which is safer because it doesn't have any side effects, because it is human specific insulin. Now we will see in detail the production of human insulin on a fresh board, right? How did they work out? Let us see. That's what is the concept, genetically engineered insulin. Now, in whom are we going to express? Who is a host? Obviously bacteria. Now, then if bacteria is a host, who is a vector? E. coli is the vector. PBR is a vector, or PUC will be the vector. Now, insulin gene is collected from human leukocytes, WBC. Insulin gene is collected from human leukocytes initially, and they were used in the preparation of rDNA technology. And they were used in rDNA technology. When you are taking the DNA, when you are taking the DNA directly from the leukocyte, and when you are giving it to the vector, and when you are giving it to a bacteria, what problem they faced is, so what is this? This is a vector, and this is a human DNA, insulin DNA. So when you introduce this, we know that human genes, eukaryotic genes, have introns, whereas bacteria doesn't have the mechanism to split the introns. So this became a problem. So this did not work out. Then what did they do? Means, so they dropped this idea, because when you take the DNA from WBC and when you are giving it to the vector and when you are giving it to the bacteria, since bacteria doesn't have mechanism to remove the introns and our genes are introns, it is not working out. Then what they have done is, they have taken the mRNA. They have taken the matured mRNA in which introns are already removed. Matured mRNA coding for insulin is collected, and from RNA they made cDNA. The process of making cDNA from RNA is called reverse transcription. So they have done reverse transcription. So this mRNA, which is matured, which is processed, in which introns are not there, then from that if you make cDNA, it will not have the split genes, it will not have introns. Now take that cDNA, complementary DNA, and now give it to the vector. Now give it to the vector. And now if you are introducing into the bacteria, then it will express. So this is the way they have selected the DNA. How did they select the DNA? They in order to make the DNA, they have taken a matured RNA in which split genes are removed, introns are removed. And from the matured RNA, they made cDNA by reverse transcription. And then they gave it to the vector. Then they send it into the bacteria. Now let us see which bacteria they used and which vector they used. They have used PUC vector, which is having antibiotic resistance, ampicillin resistance, and it has LAGZ gene. And it is not a cloning vector, it is an expression vector. We don't want the insulin gene to be cloned, we want the insulin hormone to be extracted. Hormone means protein, means the gene should be expressed in form of RNA and protein. means you need to give a promoter sequence also. So what is this? A promoter sequence. If promoter sequence is there in the vector, what is a vector called? It is called expression vector. It's called expression vector. Now, in this, after the laxed they have introduced the insulin gene which codes for A polypeptide. After the laxed gene, they have introduced the insulin gene which makes A chain. Parallelly, they have taken another PUC vector also, in which again antibiotic resistance is there. Again promoter sequence is there. Again laxed gene is there. Here what gene we need to introduce? The insulin gene which codes for the B chain. Here they have introduced the insulin gene which codes for the B chain. It codes for B chain. Now these two are called as rDNA vectors. These two are called as rDNA vectors. Now these rDNA vectors are sent into the bacteria. Transformation. What is the technique? The technique is called transformation. If we send the DNA into the bacterial cell, the technique is called transformation. So we sent it through a technique called transformation. The bacteria took the recombinant vector. The bacteria took the recombinant vector and the bacteria will multiply. When the bacteria multiplies, then the gene also multiplies. Then the gene also multiplies. Finally, it's not just multiplication, it will express the gene also. Finally, you will get a protein in which laxed gene codes for beta galactosidase enzyme. A fusion protein will be made. Beta galactosidase with A chain. So we will get beta galactosidase with A chain. When we extract, so we get A chain protein which is fused with the laxed. Laxed codes for an enzyme beta galactosidase. Now, similarly, here you get beta galactosidase enzyme because laxed gene codes for beta galactosidase along with the B chain. Means, children, what did we get here is a fusion protein because A chains and B chains are fused with one more enzyme. Then treat these chains with cyanogen bromide. When we treat with cyanogen bromide, then this is called fusion protein. Let me write down here. Since both the proteins are fused, we call it as a fusion protein. This is also a fusion protein. Now, when we use cyanogen bromide, so then the proteins are separated. Means beta galactosidase gets separated, insulin gets separated. Beta galactosidase gets separated, B chain gets separated, A chain gets separated. Now the challenging task in rDNA technology is to assemble A chains and B chains. So till here what we have done is we have taken a PUC vector. So we have opened it and we have kept our A chain here, we have kept our B chain here. Thus we made recombinant vectors. Through a process called transformation, we sent the A chain into a bacteria, E. coli. What is the name of the bacteria? It is E. coli. We send it into E. coli. E. coli will multiply. Our gene is also getting multiplied and it's getting expressed. Finally, we will extract the protein which is a fusion protein because you introduced after laxed gene. Laxed gene will code for beta galactosidase. Beta galactosidase protein with A chain together will come. Beta galactosidase with B chain will come. When we treat with cyanogen bromide, so the proteins get separated. The proteins get separated. Now, the next challenging task in rDNA technology is the assembly of the A chain and B chain. It is assembly of A and B chains. So, careful evaluation. This led to assemblage also. They have joined A chains with B chains and we know between 7 and 7, 1 disulfide bond. Between 20 and 19, 1 disulfide bond. Between 6 and 11, 1 disulfide bond. Zinc atom at the center will finally give us human insulin, which is called as humulin, which is a boon to diabetes people. Because if they take chemical insulin, the body will become a chemical factory. It will be a load on the kidney. If they take animal insulin, they'll get too many side effects. But this one, human insulin, which is safer, which is efficient, and it is cheaper also because bacteria is producing it. In biotechnology, you can produce in bulk scales. Hope you understood the lecture. If you like the content, like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.